It's horrifying to not have running water. You put everything you have into buying a place here. That dream of, I get to give my house to my kid when I pass away, ripped right out from under me. I'm a disabled vet. Can't afford to go anywhere. And the people that come into taking this from us, they're rich. They're really rich.
In Arizona, like most of the American West, water is running out.
Extreme drought that has invaded the state.
Worst in 1,200 years.
Historic water cuts to multiple states are now possible.
But even as water supplies are dwindling, some people have more access than others.
The amount of water that they're using is just unreal.
It's corrupt. It's just corrupt and another tactic of war.
I don't know how they have the heart to do it.
Across the country, battle lines are being drawn between rural communities and massive agricultural firms. And there's one community here in southern Arizona, at the center of it all.
Yeah, they're cool to watch when they're flying around in their little formations or clouds. It's pretty cool. I've lived here about 10 years now. Thought it was a beautiful place, good weather, helped with my pain problems. Then it went south.
Vance Williams had hoped to live in Pearce, Arizona for the rest of his life. But in 2020, his well ran dry, leaving him without running water in his house for 6 months.
This is the water tank I had to buy. Once I realized how big the problem was, we were living on 5-gallon jugs of water before that.
How much does something like this cost?
That was, I believe, right around $3,000. Took every penny I had extra and some that I didn't. Some of it went on to credit cards.
For a long time, Pearce was a quiet town of family farms and people looking to retire surrounded by mountains. But 10 years ago, that started to change. A company from Minnesota bought a local dairy farm with big plans to transform the landscape.
They just kind of took off and got bigger and bigger.
The company is called Riverview, and since 2014, they've spent more than $160 million buying up land around Pearce. To understand just how much they've transformed the landscape, you have to see it from the sky. Riverview now owns 55,000 acres of land. They use it to grow alfalfa, enough to feed 150,000 cattle. And that requires a lot of water. Before Riverview came to town, the dairy farm here used about 61 million gallons of water per year. But by 2022, Riverview's massive operation was using more than 14 times that, roughly 900 million gallons. And it wasn't long before their neighbors started to feel the effects.
You know, when a parasite or a virus looks for a healthy host, that's what's going on here.
Tracy Page lives just over a mile from one of Riverview's alfalfa fields. Her well dried up last July.
What did it feel like to be going through something like that, having no water?
It's a horrible feeling. I don't do amusement park rides, but I would imagine that free fall is actually closest to what it feels like. Because it just feels like I have no safety net. I get that some of it's nature. I get I moved to the desert. I get it. But this state is mismanaged. They're allowing people with the most money to do whatever they want.
When it comes to water laws, Arizona is still pretty much the Wild West.
So the needle is going to show us the moment we touch the water. So right now it is out of the water. And then now it's in the water there.
The state started monitoring water levels in 1980, after a landmark law created new conservation rules, like limiting the amount of water farms could use.
You don't want to buy a home in an area that doesn't have the water to sustain you or your kids or your grandkids. There are checks and balances in place for locals so mom and pops, their wells don't go dry.
But here's the catch. The 1980 law left out roughly 80% of the state. It basically just covered major cities and excluded rural areas. That's how Riverview is allowed to pump as much water as they want.
The advantage lies with the people who have the deep enough pockets to drill deep wells. As long as you own the land and you submit the paperwork, you can drill a well as big or as deep as you'd like.
And this is happening across the state, from a dairy farm owned by a Saudi prince, to a New York-based investment firm, to a billion-dollar insurance company. Arizona's extremely lax regulatory environment has made it an ideal home for corporations looking to pump unlimited water.
What better deal? You can drill and get all the water you want and just build and build and build with really not much concern on those of us that were here trying to manage this water. I was dumber than six rocks, Katie. I thought that the economy would always take care of it.
Ed Curry is a fourth-generation farmer in Pearce. He and his team grow chili peppers on a 2,000-acre farm.
So let's go in here. I want you to smell the chili when I open this door, okay?
Okay.
This is the effect.
Okay.
All right. There you go.
It smells amazing.
Yeah. This valley is home to me. It'll always be home to me. I'll be buried here. I hope my kids are. I hope this is home for us for as long as we're on planet Earth. Water is critical. 3 hours on a hot afternoon in August, I can ruin a chili crop without right water. That's how critical it can be.
For the past few months, Ed's been working with lawmakers to address the loophole that leaves rural communities without water protections. What they came up with is a bill that would give residents the power to set guardrails for how water can be used. It could incentivize more efficient irrigation systems, or simply force companies to drastically reduce their consumption.
That local control is a huge part. It lets us kind of guide our ship. The overall plan, Katie, has to be that we shrink the water usage and that we make it more efficient. For us, water's been kind of the center of a beautiful life. And I want that to continue. Sorry.
Don't apologize. Why does that get you when you talk about the future and...
Because, Katie, the values that we learned on the farm around water and irrigation is who we are today. We were taught honesty. We were taught integrity. I don't want to lose that. And I want it available for other small farms, not just large corporate farms. Corporations don't have tears over it. They look at bottom line.
20 years ago, there was enough water in Pearce for residents to thrive. Today, it's code red. So it's worth asking, what will it look like 20 years from now? If companies like Riverview continue to get a free pass? And what would it take to change course?
We're supposed to adapt to all these corporations and these people with, mass amounts of money, but they don't have to adapt to us. And that's not fair.
Somebody's got to decide that people are more important than money. The people that should be doing this, that we've elected to do this, are looking the other way. I personally think they all need to live off of 5-gallon jugs of water for a while and understand how devastating that is to somebody that thought they had a forever home.
I hope that 100 years from now, they know that we were right, that we were trying to make a difference so that this valuable desert, one of the last strongholds of water in the whole Southwest, came up with a bipartisan agreement that everybody came together out of care and concern for one another. Is it a dream? Probably. But is it possible? Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos like this one. And if you have ideas for stories you want us to cover next, leave them in the comments.